What if the biggest threat to sexual intimacy isn't lack of confidence, but the wrong kind of confidence? A lot of people think they need to be bolder, smoother, or more impressive, when what actually creates desire is presence, safety, and emotional control. If you're someone who wants intimacy to feel deeper than performance, this will challenge the way you think about attraction. Ignore these mistakes, and you can make someone pull back without understanding why. In this video, we're covering 8 mistakes that destroy sexual intimacy before it has a chance to start. Stay for the final one, because it exposes a fear many people hide. 1. Rushing past emotional safety. Why does desire disappear when the moment seemed to be moving in the right direction? Most people think sexual intimacy is destroyed by lack of attraction, so they try to fix it by becoming more seductive, more bold, more physically confident. But that misses the deeper switch inside the body. Arousal doesn't only respond to chemistry, it responds to safety. Here's the thing. The nervous system has to decide whether closeness feels inviting or threatening. When someone feels subtly rushed, judged, cornered, or emotionally unseen, the sympathetic nervous system can take over. Cortisol rises. The body becomes alert instead of receptive. That doesn't always look dramatic. It can look like laughing something off, changing the subject, going quiet, becoming suddenly tired, or feeling numb when they expected to feel turned on. So the mistake is treating hesitation as a problem to push through. If you notice someone slowing down, don't try to overpower the pause with more intensity. Soften the pace. Let your attention say, "I'm still here," and nothing has to happen faster than you want. That's not killing the mood. That's creating the mood that sexual intimacy actually needs. 2. Turning desire into a performance review. Ever been close to someone and suddenly found yourself monitoring every move, every sound, every reaction? This is one of the fastest ways to drain sexual intimacy before it has a chance to build. People assume the goal is to be impressive. They want to be seen as skilled, confident, attractive, unforgettable. So they stop feeling the moment and start auditing themselves inside it. Here's what most people don't realize. Sexual connection depends on presence, not performance. When your attention gets trapped in self-monitoring, your brain shifts away from embodied sensation and into evaluation. The prefrontal cortex starts running questions like, "Am I doing this right? Do they like my body? Was that awkward?" Meanwhile, the other person can feel the absence even when you're technically doing everything correctly. The solution isn't to become more polished. It's to return to contact. Notice breath. Notice warmth. Notice whether the other person is meeting you, softening, tensing, pulling closer, or drifting away. When you stop performing for an imaginary judge, you become available to the person in front of you. That's when intimacy starts to feel mutual instead of managed. The person with you doesn't need a flawless performance. They need evidence that you're actually there, feeling with them, adjusting with them, and letting the experience become something shared rather than something scored. 3. Treating consent like a legal checkpoint instead of an erotic conversation. Does asking for clarity ever feel like it might ruin the tension? A lot of people carry that fear. They imagine consent as a cold interruption, something formal, awkward, or unsexy. So instead of speaking, they guess. They rely on momentum, silence, politeness, or the hope that the other person will stop them if something feels wrong. That's where intimacy starts to fracture. Consent isn't a single checkbox. It's a living exchange of attention, desire, comfort, and choice. In sexual communication research, responsiveness is one of the strongest signals of safety because it shows that one person is tracking the other person's internal state, not just chasing an outcome. That means the real question isn't only, did they say yes? It's, are they still with me? The practical shift is simple, but it changes everything. Ask in a way that keeps desire alive. Say, do you like this? Do you want more? Should I slow down? Then listen to the body as much as the words. Enthusiasm has a different texture from compliance. When someone feels they can guide you without disappointing you, their desire has room to expand instead of defend itself. If you understand this part, comment, signal. Not everyone catches the difference between hesitation and desire, but the ones who do know why it matters. 4. Making sexual tension carry unspoken emotional demands. Have you ever felt someone come toward you sexually, but underneath it you could feel a need they weren't saying out loud? They may have wanted reassurance. They may have wanted proof they were desirable. They may have wanted sex to repair distance, erase conflict, or confirm the relationship was secure. On the surface, it looked like passion. Underneath, it felt like pressure. Here's something that might surprise you. Desire gets heavier when it's forced to carry emotional labor that hasn't been named. The body can sense when touch is asking for more than touch. The amygdala is built to detect emotional threat, and one of the threats it notices is obligation disguised as affection. That's why someone can be attracted to you and still feel their desire shut down when the moment starts to feel like a test they have to pass. The repair is honesty before escalation. If you need closeness, say that before you sexualize it. If you feel insecure, don't make the other person's body responsible for proving you're wanted. Sexual intimacy grows when desire is offered freely, not when it's recruited to soothe panic. The moment you stop making sex carry your unspoken fear, the other person can finally meet your desire without feeling trapped by it. That's when initiation stops feeling like a demand and starts feeling like an invitation they can genuinely answer. 5. Skipping the slow build that lets the body catch up. Why can someone want you mentally and still not feel ready physically? This confuses people because they treat desire like an on-off switch. If there's attraction, they expect the body to follow immediately. If the body doesn't respond fast enough, they take it personally, apply pressure, or assume something is wrong. Think about that for a second. Sexual arousal is not only a decision, it's a physiological sequence. Blood flow, muscle relaxation, attention, breath, lubrication, erection, pelvic floor response, and emotional receptivity all move at their own pace. For many people, especially under stress, desire is responsive rather than spontaneous. It emerges through warmth, trust, anticipation, and gradual sensory attention. If you rush the build, you interrupt the conditions that would have created the very desire you're trying to reach. So slow down before the moment becomes fragile. Let kissing, eye contact, teasing, words, and touch have enough space to do their work. Watch for the body catching up. Deeper breathing, relaxed shoulders, leaning in, clearer verbal engagement, hands becoming more active instead of passive. If those signs aren't there, don't treat it as rejection. Treat it as information. Sometimes intimacy doesn't need more intensity. It needs more time. You don't have to explain it. Just comment pace if you know what it feels like when desire needs time to catch up. 6. Confusing sexual confidence with emotional dominance. Does confidence mean taking control, or does it mean being able to stay connected while desire is happening? A lot of people get this wrong. They think sexual confidence is about being assertive enough that the other person never has to wonder what comes next. So they lead too hard. They decide the mood, the pace, the meaning, and sometimes even what the other person must be feeling. That's not confidence. That's control-wearing perfume. Real sexual confidence is regulated, responsive, and relaxed enough to receive feedback without collapsing. It doesn't panic when someone says, "Not that." It doesn't sulk when someone wants to slow down. It doesn't turn a preference into a personal insult. In attachment terms, secure energy feels steady because it can stay warm without demanding constant validation. You can test this in yourself quickly. When someone redirects you, does your body stay open, or do you tighten and try to recover your pride? When someone expresses a boundary, do you become curious, or do you become wounded? Sexual intimacy survives honesty only when honesty is safe to offer. The more gracefully you can hear someone's truth in the moment, the more their body learns that closeness with you doesn't require self-abandonment. 7. Bringing comparison into the room. Ever felt a sexual moment weaken because someone mentioned an ex, a fantasy standard, a past experience, or what they think people are supposed to like? Comparison poisons intimacy because it pulls both people out of the room. Suddenly, the moment is no longer about two bodies discovering each other. It becomes a contest against memories, porn scripts, old partners, imagined rivals, or some invisible sexual scoreboard. That's not desire. That's measurement. The brain's reward system responds strongly to novelty and anticipation, but sexual safety depends on attunement. If someone feels compared, dopamine-driven excitement can quickly be replaced by self-consciousness and threat. They stop asking, "What do I feel?" and start asking, "Am I enough?" Once that question enters the room, intimacy becomes harder to access. The way out is specificity. Don't praise people like you're rating them. Don't say, "You're better than anyone else." Say what's true in the present. "I like the way you look at me. I love how close you feel right now. That feels good with you." Present tense desire is powerful because it doesn't make the other person compete for a place. It lets them feel chosen in the only moment where intimacy can actually happen. 8. Responding to desire with insecurity instead of receiving it. What does it mean when someone finally shows you desire, and you answer by questioning whether they really mean it? This is the mistake from the beginning. The moment that could open intimacy becomes a mirror for fear. You say, "Are you sure?" You hide your body. You joke it away. You ask if they're just being nice, but now their desire has nowhere to land. Their nervous system receives a confusing signal. Wanting you requires proving, convincing, and reassuring. So desire turns into emotional work. Pause before you reject the gift. Breathe. Let yourself say, I like hearing that. Sexual intimacy begins when desire is allowed to arrive and be believed. Receiving desire doesn't mean forcing yourself to feel confident instantly. It means noticing the moment where someone reaches toward you with attention, warmth, tension, or invitation, and choosing not to turn that moment into a test they have to pass. Because desire rarely arrives as a perfect announcement. It builds. It circles. It checks whether the space between you feels safe enough to become more honest. And once you understand the mistakes that stop intimacy before it starts, the next thing to understand is how someone signals that they're ready for that intimacy to move closer. Not through the obvious lines, not through dramatic declarations, but through the small phrases, shifts, and invitations that reveal when attraction has started becoming sexual intent. The next video breaks down what people say when they're not just flirting anymore, when they're quietly testing whether the conversation, the tension, and the space between you can turn into something physical.